Part 2. When I finally looked up, I saw James tenderly disinfecting Julia's fingers as if she were made of porcelain. James, I'm leaving the Gray family. 9-year-old James once promised to give me a home. But now that home was gone and it was time for me to say goodbye. James Byrne wiped Julia Watson's hand clean and kissed her fingertips lightly. His expression barely changed. Say that again, he said flatly. I took a deep breath. I said, you and Miss Julia are getting married and I'm nothing but an outsider, just like the other 98 candidates. I should leave. James, this isn't a request. It's a notice. Notice. His tone shifted without him even realizing it. Jacqueline Smith, he sneered. That vegetable father of yours, is he giving up treatment? His voice had a threatening edge that made me freeze. Memories from my past life made me tremble. He had once embraced me, only to push me into a coffin with those same cold hands. It was a pity. No matter how possessive James Byrne once was, he never imagined I'd soon marry someone else. Before, when I wanted him to soften, I threatened to leave the Gray family. But now I didn't need his softness anymore. I really needed to go. After a long silence, James snorted. If you're so scared, then stay put. Julia needs a personal maid. Especially on our wedding night. You can warm the bed for us. Julia blushed, lightly tapping his chest with her small pink fist. James, shame on you. James caught her delicate white hand, wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her into a hug. What are you shy about? Come, I'll take you out to play. She kicked me with her small high heel as she walked past, sending me crashing into shards of glass. I picked up the medical tweezers and calmly removed the broken pieces from my leg. Then I applied antiseptic as if it were nothing. I returned to the room I'd lived in for 20 years. I tried to pack like some fictional heroine from a novel I'd once read, but quickly realized none of it belonged to me. James used to take pictures with me, but at some point, the person in the photos was always a 10-year-old girl. Julia had been abroad for 10 years, and he had spent those years longing for her. The dark wedding chamber was plastered wall-to-wall with photos of Julia, secretly taken by a private investigator. All obsessively, I stuffed my documents into my pocket and sat dazed at the edge of the bed. My phone vibrated. A message from the hospital caretaker. Miss Audrey, your father just regained some consciousness. He's calling your name. I limped to the hospital. There, I heard my father weakly call my name in a barely audible whisper. That hadn't happened in my previous life. Back then, the power went out and the ventilator shut off. He died within a minute, but now he spoke my name. For someone in a vegetative state, this was a miracle. Maybe, just maybe, I would live to see him open his eyes. The caretaker left us alone, giving me a warm smile on her way out. I sat beside the bed, holding his hand tightly. I'm leaving the Gray family. Those people, they'll have nothing to do with me anymore. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep the lavender you gave me. Dad, can you get up and tell me, where did you find those seeds? I bowed my head and let the tears fall freely. I've been looking everywhere for you, and here you are, crying over a dying man. Julia stood at the doorway, arms crossed, swaying her hips with a smirk. Her eyes narrowed as she sauntered in. I wiped away my tears. What are you doing here? Julia lifted her foot and kicked the hospital bed. The monitors beeped in protest as the connected machines jolted. She tilted her chin arrogantly. I heard Mommy say you're planning to marry that pervert? I didn't respond. I just stared at her, wary. It shouldn't be my business if you want to marry a beggar, she sneered. But I heard you know my secret? I won't tell. Julia Watson looked at me as if I just told the funniest joke she'd ever heard. How can I be sure you won't say anything? If you do, James will leave me. Her eyes turned red as she spoke. Only if you're dead can I finally feel at ease. With that, a blade slipped from her sleeve and flashed toward me. I instinctively leaned back, falling straight onto my dad's unmoving body. Julia didn't look soft at all. With the blade clenched between her fingers, she aimed directly for my throat. But suddenly, a dry, pale hand caught her wrist. The monitors around us beeped erratically. The doctor had said that a patient might wake up if the machines made a sound like that. I whipped around in shock. Dad. He didn't open his eyes, but his hand firmly stopped Julia from hurting me. No, you touch my daughter, came his hoarse, broken whisper. I couldn't believe it. His hand still held firm. Footsteps echoed down the hallway fast, heavy and familiar. In a flash, Julia cut her fingertip with the blade and slipped it into my father's hand. Tears streamed down her face. Don't kill me. The next second, James burst into the room. She flew into his arms like she'd found a life raft. James, my sister's father tried to kill me. I just heard he was waking up and wanted to see him. Did Julia do something wrong? Blood dripped from her fingertip, catching James Byrne's eye. His face darkened instantly. Without a word, he seized my wrist with an iron grip, nearly crushing it. You were going to get Julia killed again, weren't you? I helped pay for your father's treatment all these years, and this is how you repay me? I shook my head, panicked. I didn't. It wasn't me. James' smile twisted cold and cruel, like a demon from the underworld. Yeah, not you this time. It was your father. I felt my stomach sink. I dropped to my knees and bowed, forehead slamming against the floor. It wasn't my dad. He's just a vegetable. He doesn't even know anything. It was Julia. She tried to kill me. But Julia interrupted with a sob. I didn't. You know about my blood condition, James. You've always known. Then she clutched her forehead and staggered back, her performance flawless. James glanced at her, his expression hardening. He looked at the blade in my father's limp hand and his jaw clenched. Good. Very good. Without another word, he walked over and unplugged my dad's respirator. The monitor screamed, a piercing beep ringing in my ears like a curse. I lunged forward and tried to plug it back in, but he shoved me away. Stop, James, please, I'm begging you. My dad will die without the ventilator. Hit me, kill me, do anything to me, but please don't do this to him. James stared down at me like I was dirt beneath his shoes. Dying is the easiest thing in the world. Don't think I don't know that a vegetable won't die just because the ventilator is off for 10 minutes. I'm just punishing you. He pulled out his phone and called the hospital staff to cut power to the ward, specifically just this room, for 10 minutes. Then he picked up Julia Watson like she weighed nothing and turned back one last time. Tomorrow night, on my wedding night, You come back to warm the bed. If you don't, just wait and see what happens." He walked out. I crawled over to my father, crying, forcing air into his mouth, but it was useless. 10 minutes later, the power returned. I immediately reconnected the ventilator. The screen flickered, then steadied into a flat line. He was gone. My dad, who had been left like a dog in that bed for years, was dead. I sat on the cold hospital floor, arms wrapped around my knees, eyes swollen and burning from crying. And then I heard footsteps again. I looked up, my vision blurred. "Do me a favor?" I whispered. I didn't know what I was trying to prove anymore. But James Byrne organized a wedding more lavish than I'd ever dared to dream. Jacqueline's wedding dress shimmered, thousands of sparkling gems stitched into the fabric, dazzling under the lights. When James entered the grand hall, his gaze instinctively swept the crowd, but he didn't see me in the seat reserved for me. The ceremony proceeded. Vows were exchanged. Applause filled the air. Then came the toast. 98 women he had once collected like trinkets in blind boxes raised their glasses together. He rarely asked questions, but this time he did. "Where is Julia?" Number 25 paused, thinking. "You mean sister number 1? I didn't see her." James frowned. "She has a name. She's not just number 1. Number 25 nodded, confused, and watched James's leave. It suddenly struck him Mrs. Lane was also Jacqueline's mother. So, he made his way across the venue to find her. Mrs. Lane stood smiling, chatting lightly on the phone with Mr. Morgan. "Aunt Jessie," Number 25 said politely. "Why isn't Julia here today?" At his words, Mrs. Lane and Mr. Morgan exchanged a strange, meaningful glance, and just like that, James felt a jolt in his chest, an inexplicable pain. The next second, Mrs. Lane raised her phone. The dim screen lit up and what James saw burned into his mind forever.